Stan watched as the sun slowly fell behind the hills, retreating to its resting place. Around him, the grubby survivors clutched an assortment of weapons, makeshift swords, crossbows, spears, and even a few guns. The townspeople respected Stan. He was a veteran, having held off against the shadow beasts many times before. This was nothing new to him. "You know the drill," he said. "Nothing gets past this wall. Do whatever it takes to keep them out." Tonight was the day everyone dreaded, October 31st. In the past, this was a day of fun tricks and scares, once known as Halloween, but to the remnants of humanity, it was a day to dread. Some called it the Night of Horrors. Others called it the Night of the Cursed Ones. But the most common name of all was the Curse of Halloween. No one knew how it originated, but they knew this much. Not even the ancients were able to survive. They were long since gone, wiped out by the curse that they had somehow created. As the sun dipped lower, Stan gripped his trusty rifle tighter. Sounds echoed in the distance, the screeches and cries getting closer and closer. Stan called out, "Lights on!" Spotlights lit up around the makeshift wall surrounding the rundown buildings that made up the small town the humans called home. Far away still, Stan could see the dark shapes approaching, the cries of the beasts getting louder and louder. "Battle stations, everyone!" came the call. The survivors hurried to their respective positions as the creatures closed in. This was the same case every year. For some unknown reason, the beasts that haunted the wasteland would increase in power, some growing to incredible sizes capable of causing intense havoc wherever they walked. As the first of the shadow beasts came into view, the wall lit up with the flashes of gunfire as the defenders began shooting at the creatures. Stan aimed carefully before pulling the trigger, dropping one of them instantly. As more creatures approached the borders of the wall, the survivors surged forward, stabbing at them through the many small gaps built into the wall. Spearmen jabbed through the holes, impaling any of the creatures that came close. But as the night wore on, the light of gunshots and the cries of the dying filled the air. The survivors were holding out, but then came a cry that stilled the hearts of every defender. A loud roar. The same thought echoed in everyone's minds. The Alpha. The Alpha. The Alpha! The Alpha was a creature only spoken about by the elders, a creature that commanded all the shadow beasts. Most survivors had never seen the Alpha, but Stan was one of the few that had, and it was a night he tried to forget. The shadow beast stirred at its call, immediately parting to make way. Slowly, it stepped toward the light, a triangular-shaped eye staring deep into the soul of every survivor. But Stan knew this trick well, and he aimed and fired. His shot was just millimeters off, piercing deep into the dark matter that made up the creature. It barely flinched, staggering a brief second from the impact before letting out a deafening cry and charging at the wall. It rammed into it with a vibration echoing through the feet of every person still standing. "Focus your fire on the Alpha," Stan said. "Don't let it break through." Every remaining gunner aimed at the body of the Alpha and fired. It shrieked as volleys of rounds pierced its hide. It fell to the ground and began to try and escape. It called out, and the shadow beasts surged forward with even greater strength, attempting to protect their master. As the defenders dealt with the other shadow beasts, the Alpha began to recover from its injuries, its wounds healing with incredible speed. A few moments later, it stood again, fury in the singular eye fixated in its otherwise featureless face. It charged and rammed the wall again, the fortifications creaking under the force of the charge. One of the defenders fell off and was immediately swallowed by the horde of beasts. Stan had no time to mourn the loss of another innocent soul before the Alpha rammed the wall again, the strain on the wall even louder than before. The Alpha had to be stopped somehow before it broke through, but its regenerative properties made it nearly impossible to kill. Then he saw the eye, a small target in the hulking mass of the Alpha. He checked his magazine. 1 bullet left. This was it. He sent a silent thought for help to Lady Luck as he slammed the cartridge back into his rifle. Stan squinted as he set his sights on the eye of the Alpha. He breathed, exhaled, then pulled the trigger. The bullet shot out of the barrel, and the Alpha didn't even have time to react before it slammed into its eye. It roared, louder than all the chaos. Cracks split through the eye, dark mist escaping from the wound. It staggered, and then, with a final groan, fell to the ground. The attacking shadow beasts stilled, staring at the now lifeless body of their Alpha. Enraged, they resumed their attack, pushing forward toward the damaged walls still keeping them away from the humans. Just as all hope seemed lost, small slivers of light peeked in the distance, creeping over the hills. The creatures hesitated as the light began to chase away the darkness of the night sky. Then they turned and darted away, leaving the small town and creeping back to their dens and holes to escape the sun's rays. Stan finally relaxed as the last of the shadow beasts disappeared. They had held out once again. They had stood strong against the curse of Halloween once more. The bodies of the dead shadow beasts began to evaporate in the sun's rays, dark mist rising from their bodies until nothing was left. Stan watched as the lifeless Alpha disappeared. It was done. For now. But deep in his soul, he knew that it would never end. This was just a respite until next year. He hoisted his rifle over his shoulder and left his post on the wall. The town still needed brave men like him to fight. After all, the shadow beasts never stopped, so why should he? Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to Tales of the Post-Apocalypse Halloween editions. This one was written by my son. He saw what I was doing. He's like, Dad, I want to try. So I said, sure, go for it. So he wrote it. I edited it a bit, cleaned it up, fixed some things. I didn't do a ton of work on it though, so this is mostly his writing, my reading, and editing, and then we use an AI image generation thing to try and create some images to go through and fit the story a little bit. And like all AI things, it doesn't do exactly what you want, but it's kind of funny to see the strange representations that it gives at times. So hope you enjoyed the images, for better or worse, and thanks for sticking with us. We'll see you next time.